How would you like it if you could possess the tools that could create every bit of success you're after? Now, you might automatically start to think I'm talking about the best CRM, the best lists, the best mail pieces, and the best network. While all that stuff is important, it's actually all pretty useless if you don't have the mental tools that success requires. In this episode, our guest drops nonstop knowledge and wisdom around the psychology of what makes a person successful. If you're having trouble gaining traction as a real estate investor, you're probably going to understand why after this episode. However, the great part is that it's all fixable. But it comes down to fixing you and your mental mechanics before you'll see things really take off. Get out your notepad because there's a lot to take in. As always, please leave us a review and share this episode. Also, connect with me on social media at Mark Lane Education and let me know how you're liking this podcast.
Calling all real estate investors. Are you ready to get off the real estate income roller coaster and learn the proven lead generation strategies the experts are using to consistently generate profitable real estate deals? Then you're in the right place. This is More Leads, More Deals, More Profits with your host, Mark Lane. Let's get started.
All right, welcome back. I'm super excited for this episode. I've got a unique twist that I want to bring you guys today. So if every other episode we've had is always been all about, the tactics, the strategies, implementation, different lists, that type of thing. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the mindset behind what makes a person great as a real estate investor and, particularly in lead generation. So guest we have is Patrick Precourt. Patrick, I'm so excited to have you on the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Honored to be here, Mark. Been looking forward to this, and I'm gonna share a little different perspective on lead generation today. Relates to business, but just so everyone knows, Mark, my background, I've been a real estate guy since the late 90s. We got heavy into the short sale space for the better part of 10 years, from like 2003, 4 up till 2012, 14, something like that. Got into the education space for a long time, and in that space of education, my responsibility to the company was fulfillment, coaching our clients, right, and getting students to be successful in the thing they want to be successful here, real estate investment. And coming out of that, I took kind of a hard right turn over to focusing on understanding why some people are successful and most aren't. Let's just be honest, in any education platform, a small percentage of people are successful and the rest just aren't. Yet the people who aren't are not dumber or less resourceful or have less resources. It has nothing to do with any of that. So part of our discussion today, I think, Mark, we'll get into a little bit like how do you cross that gap? And for listeners, I'd say this is the gap, and we all have it, right? When there's something you want and you know how to do it and you deeply desire the results and the results are good for you, why the hell can you not get yourself to consistently execute? What's the missing link? And that's kind of where I've settled in. That's where I focus my time on, helping people cross that gap. And I think by the end of today's conversation, we'll see it's not that difficult to understand, but at times it's a challenge to apply. If that's fair.
Yeah. I'm excited for this myself. I want to see how I could apply this to other areas of my life. But I've seen this as well. I've seen this with some of my students. I've seen it with friends, colleagues, everybody, where
and and I.
And there's more than enough information out there. It's most definitely not a lack of information these days. There's more information we can handle. So we know we can cross that right off, that it's not a lack of information. Anybody listening to this episode, if they go back and listen to the last 10 episodes, there's enough information there to very quickly for somebody, if they were going to take the action, to have a pretty substantial amount of success. But just as you said, there's going to be a very small percentage that will. So, So let's jump in. So I kind of want you to take this away as much as possible. I'll interject any type of questions I have that I think will apply, but I want you to kind of take it away. Essentially, I want you to fill the air more than I do. So you take it away and run with it.
Cool. So I'm going to point all this back to what your show is about, lead generation, right? I'm going to keep pushing it back there, but we'll see. It really isn't about lead generation. It's about to your point, you can apply this to anything and everything, but we're going to make it specific to lead generation today. But you'll see what we're going to talk about is it applies to everything we want in life, right? But let's start with this. Let's say you want to go fishing because you want to catch a largemouth bass. Okay. Do you think that your odds are better if you go fishing once a month or twice a month to catch that largemouth bass?
Most definitely twice.
And what if you went 10 times a month? Would it be that much better? 10 times as good, right? Okay, good. All right. Now, while you're fishing, would you have better luck if you use one rod, threw out some bait, or you threw two rods out, two bobbers, two baits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, two.
10 rods, 10 baits, you've just magnified it again. And what if, I mean, because I think you'll agree, I don't know if you fish or not, it doesn't matter, but we don't always know the kind of mood the fish are in, do we? Some days they're hungry, some days they're not. Sometimes the water temperature is proper, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a light issue, it could be anything. But some days are an absolute strikeout, and other days, no matter what we do, we hook fish. Okay, good. Then finally, the more, would you agree that not knowing what their appetite is for the day, if we put out 10 rods with 10 different baits, right? Different types of flavored baits, that increase our odds even more. What I'm describing is lead generation in a nutshell, Mark. We all we all think it's about like the fancy envelope that we send out or the copy in the letter, right? Or the door knocker we left on the wall. And frankly, it's much less about that and more about timing when the largemouth bass is hungry and your bait shows up in front of them. If they're hungry and the bait's there, they're taking a shot at it. And I've learned this through 20 years of real estate investment, right? It's much, if somebody needs to sell their house, not wants, needs, and that's our client, and you say, I'm interested in buying, they're listening. But we got to match the timing of it, right? On all those pieces in play, which now brings me to what I'm trying to get to here. Consistency and execution is what wins this game. And I know you know this because you're a very disciplined human being. Consistent. And here's the thing, Mark, it's not about the big, exciting, flashing, like, like things to do. It's the boring, mundane stuff done consistently over time that wins this game. All right. So I think everybody listening would at least, you know, at a high level, accept that to be true so far. Okay, good. So we don't have to worry about changing marketing campaigns or envelopes or flashy stamps, nothing like that.
Yeah, I think
This is
those are the things. Yeah, we call like silver bullets, and those are the things I see. All the marketers trying to sell. They're always trying to sell the best list or the best CRM or whatever. And I think that's what's so easy for people to get caught up into is they think
Mhm.
that that's the next piece, right? And it's like those are all just add-ons to the business, but they're not the business. And so what you're talking about, the consistency, the execution, I think of it like our marketing. We don't, I just posted this to my coaching group recently, but I posted our stats for the month. And I said, I want you guys to see a pattern here. I said, every single month, I'm getting about the same amount of deals. I'm spending the same amount of money, getting the same amount of leads, getting the same amount of deals. I said, it's expected. I'm no longer guessing. I don't guess. I don't wonder what I'm going to get. I said, it's just predictable because it's execution, it's consistency. It's the same thing month in, month out. And that's what you guys have to stop guessing at this and start executing on it.
And to your point, you didn't start there. You modified and adjusted your campaigns over time with the feedback that you got by taking the damn actions. Right? We need to take action in order to get the feedback that's necessary to take the next actions in line. So, for those who are still collecting information on the sideline, I'm going to tell you the thing that you think you need more times than not is only available once you go first and you respond to what's happening back at you. Okay. So let's
Yeah,
go
very good.
back
I
to,
like that. That's good.
yeah. So Mark, I use the analogy of us on our GPS in our car, right? And I don't know about you, but I've done this plenty of times where I'll go out to a new location at night for a dinner or an event or something. I use my GPS to get there. It's an hour and a half away. 3 hours later, 4 hours later, the event's over. I go back in my car. I put go home my GPS, and I sit in the parking lot because I don't remember to go left or right out of the parking lot, And I'm sitting there waiting for my GPS to respond, and nothing's happening. It's just looking back at me. Doesn't tell me to go left or right. GPS gods don't even know I exist yet because I'm not doing anything. They don't even know I want to go anywhere. But the moment I leave and I take a left, they're like, bam, we got you. And we're going to give you the shortest path home from here. So you can't go wrong at that point. You'll get exactly what you need, the shortest path to get you home from that location. That's how this game works. Does that make
That's a great
sense?
analogy. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
analogy.
So let's go now to, all right, we all agree that consistent behavior is necessary to produce results. We got to go fishing. We got to fish often. We got to fish with a lot of rods. All right, good. Why don't, if that's all it takes, and I'm not trying to minimize the effort, but if that is the formula to succeed, however we define succeed, a deal a month, 5 deals a month, 10 deals a month, just volume, right? If that's the formula to succeed, why don't we do it? You know what to do, you know how to do it, you deeply desire the results, and you know the results are good for you. Why don't we take those steps? And you can apply this to this real estate game. You can apply it to health and fitness and weight loss. Like weight loss, no one needs a trainer these days to tell them what to do in the gym or to come up with a nutritional plan. All that information is free and available too. And no one doesn't want to be healthier. No one doesn't deeply desire to live longer and with higher energy and all that kind of stuff. Yet we have a super duper duper unfit, out of shape country. Why? It's not due to a lack of knowledge. And that's what I want to focus our time on here, if that's cool. What's stopping us from doing? Okay, good. I'll run with the weight loss thing here for a second. And I'm sure you've seen this before too. Like 75 hard is a perfect example of watching this happen. Somebody will be committed, hardworking, disciplined, focused. They'll get through the 75 days, they'll lose 30 pounds, they'll feel great. And literally 2 months later, they're right back where they were. They just snapped, they slingshot back to where they were. Why? What happened? Well, they forced themselves into that state for 75 days. We can do anything for 75 days. Humans are very resilient that way. But they never fundamentally changed who they were. There's a difference between changing and transforming. When you change, you can change back. When you transform, you don't fit back in the same shoes you once were in. Like when a caterpillar goes to a butterfly, it can't change back. And transformation happens at the belief level. So look at this, Mark. Our beliefs define who we are. It's our operating system. It drives our subconscious. Everything we believe to be true or not true happens all without our conscious mind. And we can't outperform our belief system. We can't operate past it. We can force our way over for a little while, but we'll always slingshot back. Now, that gentleman I just shared with you as an example on 75 hard, 75, I mean, I'm not knocking the program either. Make no mistake. I love the program. But he didn't change who he was. He still had a belief that he was a beer drinking, Twinkie eating, fat dude that will stay this way the rest of his life. That was his subconscious programming, his belief system. He cannot not return to that person if his beliefs support that. Does that make sense? So now go back to real estate. If somebody says, I got these, a guru told me to set these big, hairy, audacious goals, and I did, and they're amazing, they're awesome. I even built a vision board that sits right in front of me, and it's the most amazing thing in the world. I'm just not doing the work to get there. Why? Because fundamentally, probably don't believe that you can make that $1 million in your first year of real estate, like your big, hairy, audacious goal shows. And when something is unbelievable, it's unactionable. We can't take action towards it. We can force it for a short period of time, but we can't continue the behavior. We'll always come back to where we started. That makes sense? So I'll give you an example out of our gym. And I think I owned a gym for like 12, 13 years. We had a guy come in and wanted He was working with the trainers, wanted to lose 30 pounds because he wanted to run a 5K because his wife was doing some charity event. This is like, say, 3 months away. And we'll call him Joe. I forget his name. And the trainers weren't getting anywhere with him. So they asked me if I'd have a conversation with him. I said, yeah, let's chat. So I sat down with Joe, and Joe's now 40-ish years old, 42 years old, hasn't done anything since his early 20s, right? And I'm like, Joe, what's going on? And it's the story, then, well, what have you done so far, Joe? Well, I've tried everything and nothing's worked. Ever hear that? I'm like, all right, because I know what's happening. I know what those words mean. Means no matter what I try, I don't work. That's what those words mean. Okay. I've never seen a program in anything about anything that was so bad it didn't work a little. Okay, just throwing that out there. There are some crappy programs, but they all do something. So I asked Joe really powerful questions when we were just talking about Mark. I said, Joe, and just be honest with me, because the only wrong answer is the lie. The only right answer is the truth. Do you believe? Do you actually believe in 3 months you're going to be able to run a 5K with your wife? And he said, no. I said, perfect. This is where we start. And so we can't just choose to change our belief system as adults. We need new evidence, new factual evidence to overwrite our old belief. And our old us are going to want to stay exactly the way we were. That caterpillar never wanted to change to be a butterfly. If it could fight it any longer, it would have. Okay. That's our self ego saying, our self ego despises who you want to become and is in love with who you were. So fights us the whole damn way. That's that voice that challenges our confidence, whether or not we're smart enough, good enough, fast enough, strong enough, have enough resources, all of that kind of stuff, right? That's our ego fighting internally against us, right? So Joe, do you believe you could do it? He says, no. All right, good. This is where we start. But we need, Joe, I got to get you to believe that this is possible. The only way that's going to happen is with some new evidence. So, Joe, now I want you to picture this, Mark, right? Picture a ladder and Joe's 5K sitting right up here at the very top of the ladder. It's the last rung on the ladder, okay? What I did is I put rungs on this ladder. And the very first rung was, Joe, I need you to walk 1 mile for 5 days in a row. Can you commit to that? And I don't want you to look at any other rungs until we're done this one. And the rule of the ladder is you only look at your next rung, nothing else ever. We set it up, goals on top, rungs to get us there. Just, yeah, I can do that. And just for the sake of validating the word commitment, as I share with Joe and I share with other clients, whatever it takes, no matter what, you do not fail. There is no excuse, there's no reason, there's no blaming. You do not execute. That's commitment. I don't care if your leg gets cut off overnight somehow. You still got to get up and walk. You have to do it. Because what we're doing, in part, is reestablishing a belief, but we're also regaining faith in ourselves, Mark, that we will actually do what we said we're going to do. Too many times, by the time we're adults, we've denied ourselves and defied ourselves and lied to ourselves so many times, we no longer trust when we say, yeah, that's a new goal. I'm going to go for it. And therefore,
I call those confidence points. Like as we do things in life and we build up
yeah.
confidence in ourselves and say, "Man, I can do this." Like look at everything I've done to this point.
Mhm.
As we accomplish those things, we build just a little bit more confidence and a little bit more confidence.
And it works the opposite way when you say you're going to do it and you don't do it. And that's why
Right,
this was,
exactly.
these steps are so important. And here's the cool thing about the ladder. You can put as many rungs on it as necessary. It doesn't slow down the process at all. They still move you directly towards the exact same outcome. Right. So I told Joe, I said, Joe, you just need to commit. You got to show up no matter what. So he gets through the first week, right? And then we turn it up a little. I forget 2 or 3 miles in a day, whatever. And by the third week, I asked him again, and this part is so critical. It's like an impasse we come over. I said, Joe, do you believe you can do this in 3 months or whatever time we had left, right? Walk that or run that 5K. He goes, Pat, I genuinely believe it's possible. And that is all the human soul needs is possible. We don't need any guarantees. We just got to know that if we show up and do our work, that it's possible we can make it to the end. That's where that fire and that passion get ignited. We get turned up and just amped up to get at it, you know? So every step he took every day, although hard and blisters and painful, and his knees are hurt and all this other crap, right? He was getting more inspired, Mark, and more pumped up and more jacked up because that light at the end of the tunnel was getting just ever so slightly bigger each and every step he took every day. And sure enough, in the 3 months he ran the 5K, ran it really brutally slow, but he never had a time limit as to how fast or how slow. So the takeaways here is we can't change, we can't just choose to change a belief. We need new evidence. And the way you get new evidence is taking small, scary, challenging, but achievable steps continuously, repeatedly. Don't give up until possible happens. And that's where once you get to, man, I actually see how this is possible now, it ignites you. Now you've opened up the floodgates. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think of people I've witnessed, myself included, where, in real estate, we can really struggle. We can be really scared of doing different things, especially in the beginning. But it's like once that first deal is realized, and all of a sudden we have new
Mm.
belief. We're like, I can do this. If I can do one, I can do two. Next thing you know, people really start to catch on. They get traffic or they get traction, and it accelerates. But it can take a long time for some people to get there because, as what you're saying, they just don't have the belief in the beginning. They know it's possible as far as they see other people doing it. They see people holding checks or whatever it is. Maybe they're in a coaching program. They see other people doing it, so they have some type of belief, but they don't believe they themselves can do it yet.
Right. Yeah. So let's touch on two other really good talking points. One being fear, and one being the word meaning. We'll go in order here. So fear. All fear is anchored in one thing. That's the unknown. It's no more complicated than that. But fear gets in our way of progress because we associate with loss and judgment and failure and all of those other things. But fear is a normal part of the process as well, Mark. It's impossible to do something new and different and not experience some level of fear. But it's our association around fear that becomes problematic, that we automatically believe fear is bad, that something bad is going to happen. But if we can realize that fear more times than not is very harmless, and it's simply a like a preservation response to something, to not knowing. It's no more complicated than that. And if in those moments of fear that stop us from picking up that phone and dialing out, or showing up at that person's house to meet them face to face, whatever it may be, we remind ourselves that this is actually the tipping point to something new and different. It's like a door. It's like a gateway. And we get to choose to walk through it, or we get to choose to slam that door shut, right? And either inactive or take the action. So dealing with fear is often more just an exercise of walking through what it means. And now you can get to a point where when that fear creeps in, it still is a little fearful, but it's also inspiring because you know it's a new door to something new and different, which is that's what we strive for every day. That makes sense? So it's not to be disrespected because it's crippling at times for many,
And
but if we
but
can
I think I think
reassociate
that's
what
a
it
really good
means.
point because I know I personally have you associate fear along with a lot of other um, feelings or emotions or whatever they could be as a negative thing.
Hmm.
Associate fear as being negative, and so being able to now say, okay, well I've got fear. This isn't necessarily bad. This is just new, and that fear is telling me there's a new opportunity here.
Without fear, there could be no change in your life. That's a true story. To now, we find ourselves as humans pressure because we love certainty, and we have a high need for certainty in our lives, but a certain little part of us needs some uncertainty too. That's what challenges us, and that the endorphins that are released under kind of a scary little roller coaster ride. Like we need that stuff in our lives. So we need a balance of the two, and we got to remind ourselves not to associate fear with something bad. There is a very, very like carnal, organic fear. Like when a grizzly bear jumps out in front of you, when you're running down a trail, I'm gonna eat you to death, right? That fear is good. That's a high level preservation fear, right? And it triggers our fight or flight, and we get superhuman powers, and we escape and run up and climb up a tree and all that kind of stuff. That's good. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about emotionally and mentally induced fear while we're sitting in our bed at 3 a.m. and we can't sleep, and we're causing a sense of anxiety, right? Because we're worrying about something in the future that has not happened that we're making up in our mind. That's crippling. That's the part we got to reel back in. That's the one we got to write a new story around and not allow ourselves to play out a future event that never happened, that does not serve us. When you think about it, it's like, why would humans do that? Well, every human I've ever met does that, okay? Or has done that, all right? It's just, I don't know why we do it, but it doesn't mean we have to continue to do it, right? Very similar to how what we're taught about fear, might as well bring in this word pain too, because those two do have an overlap, right? Our association with pain, right? Our parents taught us that pain was bad. And when you have pain, anesthetize it, distract from it, get away from it, avoid it. If it's a pain about to happen, run from it, right? But pain is bad, so at all costs avoid pain. Now you and I were just talking about your health and leading, into this conversation, right? If you ignored your pain and continued doing what you normally did, you would make the situation tragically worse. Agreed? Pain is the greatest information, the greatest insight we can get from the universe, whether it be physical pain, mental pain, or emotional pain. The challenge is we usually just either distract from it or we anesthetize over it, whether it be, watching, social media or TV shows or drinking or weed or whatever it is. We do anything but confront it. When in fact, the moment pain shows up in our lives, we should drop everything we're doing and give it our exclusive attention. Now, physical pain, like you've gone through a tremendous amount, it got your attention and you listened and you've figured out how to remediate the pain. That was very smart of you, right? Mental and emotional pain is a little more challenging, right? It's easier to not listen to that pain, to distract from it, a couple drinks at the end of the night and make it all go away, right? And the problem is then whatever behavior is creating that mental and emotional distress, we continue doing. And it gets worse and worse and worse. I only bring this up because we're on an entrepreneurial journey. I'm sure most people listening are on this entrepreneurial journey at some level, right? It's not easy. It's actually pretty damn hard. This is, and I know I'm not just speaking for myself, which isn't bad. Humans are tough. We're resilient, right? But the more we are prepared to deal with the realities of what we confront, the more likely we are to succeed on the other end. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now let's get to some good juice here on where we get the fight from. So let's talk about the word meaning for a second. Now you have kids, Mark. How old's your youngest?
Daughter Isabel, she's just turned 17.
17. Okay.
Yep.
Let's go back to when she was six years old for a second. Okay. Now let's say you and I are out for a walk. Just casual. I'm visiting you. We're out for a walk in the neighborhood. We come upon this house. There's all fire trucks and police cars, and we see a lot of smoke coming out of the house. They're spraying with hoses and everything. Hey, Mark, you're like challenging. I said, I'll give you $100, brother, to run into that house, fill this glass with water, and come running back out. And you're like, no, Pat, that'd be stupid. And I go, all right, I get it. How about $1,000? I'm gonna test you here. You're like, no, man, I'm not doing that for $1,000. I said, all right, man, $1,000,000 if you run into that house, fill this glass of water, come back out here. You're like, Pat, listen, I'm done playing this game. My life's not worth it. No, nothing you can do, nothing you can give me, Pat, would get me to go in that house. That's scenario number one. What's your daughter's name?
Isabel.
Isabel. Scenario number two, same house, same fire truck, same police cars, same siren, same smoke, same flame. But you can hear Isabel screaming at the top of her lungs for you, scared out of her mind. She got trapped in this house. It was a girlfriend's house. Everybody got out by her. And the only way she's coming out is if you go in and get her. Would there be anything I could possibly do that would stop you from going in that house and rescuing your daughter?
Yeah, nothing whatsoever.
Nothing at all. Now, the important takeaway of this made up story is this: we went from impossible to get you to do it to impossible for you not to do it. Same circumstance, different meaning in the circumstance. That's how important what we do. That's why what the meaning behind what we do matters so much. Now, people set goals. I'm going to 10 houses a month, $1 million a year, and they're all void of meaning. There's no, and meaning is where we get the fight, the passion, the fire from that we need when the going gets tough, and it does get tough. How do you get through those challenges? When something means enough to you, you will fight and you'll claw and you'll make it happen. Humans are brilliantly resilient that way, right?
Yeah, I want to interject just a quick little story, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, to kind of hammer home this point. So when I started in real estate, my meaning, I had a vision of my daughter being just like I was at that time before I started, extremely broke, desperate, no direction, feeling like a failure in life, like having a very clear vision of her. It was very late at night, like I couldn't sleep, and having a very clear vision of her growing up to be just like I was like imagining her in the fire, right? Like that vision of her growing up without direction, not knowing that the impossible is possible, not knowing, like being broke her whole life. That was all it took for me to say, I'm changing direction for my family. Well, it'll never be the same. And so, like, to hammer home the point, I had meaning, which is why I took massive action.
Yeah, no, and that's a perfect example. See, it wasn't about the action. It wasn't about the houses. It wasn't about the checks. It was about the meaning you attached to those events, the results of the results. And I ask full grown men, our age and older, all the time, ask them same damn question. What do you want? Like, what do you really want? And Mark, they struggle answering that question. And man, when something doesn't mean enough to you, you'll only go so far to get it done. That is our reality. Now, if requires one of our listeners here that's new to real estate to spend 3 consistent hours a day every day just picking up the phone and calling absolute strangers to solicit them to sell the house for the next month straight every single day, if that's what it takes, right? You have to have something strong enough to drive you to execute the behavior, the meaning behind it. What is the result of that result? And that's a question we've got to ask ourselves.
So
That's how powerful
so
meaning is.
So a thing I'm thinking of is, how does somebody, let's say somebody's in a pretty comfortable situation. They're making a couple $100,000 a year. They've got a great family. They're not in any type of pain. They want a little bit of difference in their life, but they're really not in much pain. And they don't want what's on the other side of the pain bad enough. How do they make the change? Is there, or can they, or will they, if they don't desire it badly enough?
All right, so you brought up a couple key things here. So let's start with comfortable. Comfortable is, I call that, man, that's the most powerful weapon of the devil right there. Once we're comfortable, we want to stay comfortable. And what that means is we stop changing. We stop doing something new and different. We stop creating. And the second we stop creating, our soul starts to wither and atrophy. That's how the devil kills us off. I shit you not. So look at comfort as a threat, not as an opportunity. And that, like, if I was talking to that person, I'd have that conversation with them. That you can't sit here. This is like sitting, you're stepping into a big puddle of quicksand here. And the longer you pause, the less likely you'll ever come out. Now, if they are set on comfort, and here's where you get trapped in comfort, Mark, is once we're there, we don't want to give it up. And therefore, we become fearful of losing it. And therefore, we refuse to change anything out of risk of losing it. That's the trap. At some point, we got to go, man, I got to take a chance here, make a move. But to your point, if they have zero awareness around this or desire to become more, then they won't even entertain this conversation. that makes any sense. If they're saying, hey, Pat, man, I'm stagnant, I'm a little stuck. How do I get out of here? So there's an internal scale, and this would work good for your kind of mindset and mentality too. There's an internal scale of pain and pleasure. And every decision we make every single day is either to avoid a pain or to gain a pleasure. Every single decision. I know that kind of simplifies us, but it's the way we operate, right? Now, if we want to make different decisions, to take different actions to produce different results, but we're not doing it, all we have to do is crank up the pain side of the scale. So picture this. When the pain, this side, of staying the same outweighs the pain, the perceived pain of change, we'll take action. So if we know that to be true, and that's built into our psyche, all we have to do is load up the pain side of the scale. Now, per the conversation we had a little while ago about pain, we artificially cheat the scale against our favor. We distract from the pain, we anesthetize the pain, we avoid the pain. Before long, we're not feeling it. It's there, but we're not feeling it. When in fact, we should be overweighing the scales, if that makes any sense, right? Turning up now, what's one way you could do it? Let's just say there's something you want to do, you're not doing. I said, all right, Mark, I'm going to get you to do this. It'll take me a week or so, max, but you'll consistently and continually do it. How are you going to do that, Pat? Well, I'm going to have you write me 7 checks, each for $10,000. And each day you don't do it, I cash your check. Let's see how long this game lasts. And the pain of you continuing your old behavior of not executing is going to get outweighed by me taking $10,000 from you every single day. You follow me on that? And that's a very surface level example of it. In our gym, we used to do this with the women who are up for it. Somebody who, they always got to lose 30 pounds for this upcoming wedding in 6 months. Okay, great. So if you really, really, really are committed to this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a few pictures of yourself in a bikini, send them to me digitally. The day you don't show up once, I put these out on our gym-wide Facebook page. How's that sound? We make all of our decisions to avoid a pain or to gain a pleasure. And we're much less driven to gain pleasure than we are to avoid pain. So to the degree that you want to change is to the degree that you'll create the pain lever in your life. It's irrefutable. It works.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. Yeah.
It's just got to be the right pain. So if that guy came to me and he's stuck and he doesn't know what to do and he can't get motivated or inspired, what if we don't need motivation or inspiration? What if we just need to be pain adverse and we make the pain strong enough, like a giant lever to get us to start doing a different behavior? That's how you just cheat the whole system. Not easy. Again, easy to explain, not easy to execute.
But it seems like that would be really tough for somebody to, let's say if they're alone, right? If they don't have a good coach like you or a group they're accountable to or something, it seems like that'd be a really hard thing to do for them to cheat cheated on their own, because at the same time they're going to be protecting themselves. So
very easy to self-inflict pain. Agreed. Okay. But finding someone, and I'll loosely use the word an accountability partner. So a good accountability partner is somebody who is 100% unempathetic to all your bullshit stories and has no problem at all levering pain on you. That's an accountability partner. You're not there to be friends. A spouse, terrible, right? But somebody who's willing to bring down the hammer on you. That's an accountability partner. So in one of the groups I have one of the gentlemen in there. It's an all guys group. He wants to quit smoking, has not quit smoking. He's our age. I'm older than you, but got to quit smoking. And his son got in trouble for smoking weed a year ago, got suspended from school, all this kind of stuff. And then he made an agreement, shook his hand with his son. You quit, I quit. I quit, you quit. We quit together. His son has quit since then. He hasn't quit, and he's lying to his son about it. Follow me on this? It's all right. This has got to stop. Let's do this, man. The next time you smoke, this is cold turkey. The next time you smoke, you at least have the audacity and integrity to let me know. And I'm calling your son and telling him that you're still smoking and he needs your help and you need his help. And that does not sit well with him. Less so with the smoking, more about the out of integrity part in front of your son. That makes sense? But to your point, having a third party who's unempathetic to his stories and willing to levy down great distress and pain is how we change life. Now, to the degree that you want to change, will be relative to what you're willing to put on the line. You know, maybe $10,000 a day for 7 days isn't enough for you. Maybe it's got to be $100,000 a day for 7 days. Behave. You've got a point that your behavior will change. Maybe it's a deed to your house. You won't give that up. You follow me on that?
Yeah.
And
No,
then
I love this stuff. It makes me think of just how comfortable people are, but that's why I would say it's, and I imagine you'll agree, is why so few people ever change, is because they don't they don't want to potentially inflict pain on themselves. They want to stay in that comfort zone, and it's why there's such a small percentage that become wealthy. It's why there's such a small percentage that become healthy and have six packs, and why such a small percentage have fantastic marriages and so on. Right? Such a low percentage will go through the pain.
answering that first question, what do you want, is where it all begins. Second question is, when do you want to buy? And that at least puts scope to it, right? And the third question is huge. What are you willing to sacrifice to get it?
So,
And I
listeners, I
would
want you to
suggest,
run through those again. Listeners, I want you to pay attention to these three questions, because
what do
as
you
I'm
want?
listening to all of this, like
You,
I'm
you,
hearing like this
yeah,
is what it's boiling down to.
you can't get something that you have not clearly identified. What do you want? Don't just say money. Don't just say a house. Don't say a family. Get specific. The more specific you are in detail, the more actionable it is, and the quicker the increased likeliness that you'll achieve it. Okay. Lack of clarity kind of stops the whole game. Second one is, when do you want it by? And really, what you're asking yourself, what's the shortest time possible to get this? The possible is a key word. And the third one's a big one. What are you willing to sacrifice? Now there's no one else hearing this conversation. It's between you and you. What are you willing to put on the line for that thing? And now it really starts pushing you down the line. Well, what does that thing mean to me? And it gets you in a deeper discussion with yourself. And sometimes the list starts out really short, Mark, but then the more you think about it and the more you process the the meaning behind achieving that thing, you start realizing, shit, I'll pretty much sacrifice almost anything to have that. It means that much to me, right? But that's when we pre-address what we're willing to sacrifice, it's a lot easier when it comes time to make the sacrifice. If you know you're sacrificing sleeping in bed in the morning, right? You've already worked through that, and you've already gone through the mental exercise of the alarm going off and you not even shutting it off. You getting your ass out of bed, then shutting it off, right? You've already gone through that exercise. Now tomorrow morning, you're not confronted with the question. You're just in execution mode. If we don't pre-work through the exercise and pre-work through the challenge, then it's question time. Oh, should I turn it off or stay in bed? Turn it off, stay in bed. I'm going to shut it off while I'm thinking about answering that question, right? But we've already made the decision. So now we just go, we don't even think about the question. We go right into execution mode at that point. And this allows us to walk through step by step. What am I willing to sacrifice? All right, man, going. I know they're gonna call up Friday night, every night, 6 o'clock. They want to meet at the bar. Right? Now, if you wait till 6 o'clock Friday night and they call you, and you've been doing that every Friday, you're not saying no at that point. You're going. But if you already walked through the conversation, the rebuttal from your best friend, your response to that, and then your final putting the foot down and being done with it. You've already gone through it all. Now, when it comes time, Friday night, you just execute. All you do is go through the motions. You've already been here. You've done that. You've succeeded at it. We're going through it already. Does that make sense? That's why that question is so important and so powerful. You know, and it will put into context what you say you want. I want all this, but I'm only willing to sacrifice this. There's a little out of proportion there. You
Most
quickly see
definitely.
I, I either lower this or I deepen this. One of them's got to change.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I can think back of working with several people where they want a lot, but then they're not willing to do very much. That just doesn't ever get anywhere.
Yeah, even going back to fitness, I want to be super fit in 6 months. Well, pretty much anybody can be really, really fit in 6 months from now, right? Depending on your work rate and your commitment to your discipline, to your diet and to your sleep and all the other components that go along with it. And how to do it and what to do are readily available. You want the results, they're good for you. It's just you filling in this part of it that changes the game.
But listeners, I would encourage you to listen to this episode a couple times, a few times if you need to, because knowing what I know, the answers are here, right? Like we again start out the show, we talk about, every episode we talk about the tactical and the how tos, and talk about systems and that type of thing. But what Patrick is really talking about here is what gets that person over the hurdle and allows them to start taking the action. So if you're finding yourself in a place where you're not taking the action the way that you want to, or you have fear, or you have like all these different things we discussed, it's in this episode. So I'm super grateful that you took the time to talk with us today. Because I mean, like I would love to just spend another couple hours talking to you because I love this stuff. It's so powerful.
Awesome. Yeah. And so just remind people one little thing, right? Whenever we're not getting results, Mark, we almost always default to the same thing. I must need more knowledge, information, podcasting, books, home study course, weight loss products, whatever it may be. I need more. You don't need more. You need to do more. Out of the doing, the information you think you need that you don't currently have will be gotten as a result of the execution. I think we talked about that right at the beginning of the show. I call it the discovery process. It's faster to discover your way to success than it is to study your way to success by like tenfold. That
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I always try to tell people like you just gotta get out there, take the action. Like all the next steps are going to present themselves after the first step, like, and it doesn't matter what a coach tells you or a home study course or whatever. It's going to be just a little bit different for everybody. Like just the feedback is different. We're all different. So like if we don't get out there and take the action, that next step is not going to reveal itself to where we can go even further, which is
That's it.
exactly what you start out with. All right, Pat, where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more?
So easy to find on social media, just Patrick Precourt, right? I can send you a link if you want it, Mark, for
Yeah, we
we
can put
got
in
a
the show
book
notes.
coming out in about 2 weeks called Fail Forward, and it goes a little deeper in a lot of these kind of subjects that we're talking about here, like just basically the fastest way to establish new habits to produce new results in alignment with your bigger dreams, right? And it takes what I've done is I've taken the world of like personal development, which can be kind of fluffy and intangible at times, and made it very measurable, tangible, trackable, black and white, like evidence-based personal development, right? Just
And I think I maybe missed a piece. Did you say you have a book coming out?
yes, yeah, we got a book coming out in about 2 weeks called Fail Forward. Been at it for a while, a little slow in getting it done,
Yeah, they take a
but
while.
falling prey to what many people do here. Like you want it perfect, right? You keep wanting, and every time you look at it, you want to make it better. And I've been doing that forever. At some point, you just got to cut it off. Henry Ford was brilliant at that. He struggled with his engineers not being able to get a car out in production. They kept saying it needed more, need better brakes, it needed better seating. Or, the mechanics were off on it. Finally, he went down and said, "Show me the most done car you have. Bring it up to the show floor, up to the showroom. I'm selling that car. They'll tell me what I'm missing."
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
That's it.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I think we're out of time. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. I learned a ton. I can't wait to kind of hear the feedback from everybody else. So I think they'll get a ton of value out of this.
Honored to be here, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Take care. Thank you.
This episode is over, but we're not done here. For tons more actionable advice, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Ready to get help from Mark directly? Visit marklaneeducation.com to schedule a consultation and kickstart your lead generation strategies right away. We'll see you next time on More Leads, More Deals, More Profits with Mark Lane.